I'm all in altcoins, and that means that I rebalance my portfolio on a monthly basis. And the key problem was that I didn't know how to properly manage my portfolio. With this unique strategy though, I found a way to make more return, and that's what we discuss in this video. The altcoin markets are doing absolutely fantastic. It's great to be in altcoins at this point, but no, they are making actual cycle lows, or some of them are. But if we zoom out a little bit, then the first quarter was actually terrible, and the second quarter isn't as bad as we might think it is. Some altcoins are making lows, but some are doing great. So the only pain that we see is that the altcoins aren't really doing much, while the majors are actually trying to move up a lot. And if you are in the same boat, and if you're fully into altcoins and you want to support a soldier trying to make content here to continue delivering content, make sure to subscribe beneath. That helps me out a lot. We are approaching 170,000 subscribers, and we want to continue delivering the great content that we do. Now, if we look at the markets, then the key point is to use the right reference. And if we zoom out, we already know that in the past 4 years, altcoins have been underperforming. Nothing else. But at some point, the markets start to change. And then you need to be aware of that change to make the most of the return possible. As in, the greatest part of the return is done while nobody really expects it or is in the markets, because the sentiment is still bad during that period. And if you look at Bitcoin, for instance, the chart shows it that Bitcoin has yielded a return of 40% since the low in April. While if we look at a different chart, and that's Ethereum, it has been doing even better, as it's up 85% since the low in April, through which the first few altcoins start to outperform Bitcoin. And it doesn't feel like that. I think if you use the reference of the peak bull cycles of 2021 or 2017, then everything is still set. But if you really start to look at what's happening, then the fact that Ether is outperforming is a strong signal. And the fact that the altcoins, the smaller ones, aren't really moving as of yet is because the sentiment is still bad and people want to get out of their market positions, making sure that they are out of the markets or feel safe again or whatever there is. And that's why you see those bumps in the chart. Now, the fact is that if we look at Ethereum chart, and we have been holding down the entire bear market, or at least the previous period, it's not the right strategy to be selling your positions at this point, as we just started. Now, the question is, if Ethereum has been going up so much, then the rest of the market should be identical. And that's just not the case. If we look at Optimism, for instance, it's only up 18% since the low in April. So there's still a lot more upside to come, and it has been underperforming. While on the other hand, we have altcoins that have been overperforming, which in this case is Tau, which has been providing a substantial return, which is 135% since the low, as there is a lot of hype surrounding Tau at this point, which is great, and that might be adding more fuel to the strength of the particular AI vertical in this market. So combining these two brings me to the fact that the portfolio needs to be rebalanced. But before we can do that, I would like to discuss two charts with you that are the most important charts that you need to focus on. Which are not really related to crypto, which are macroeconomic. And if you want to look at crypto specific ones, so you have the beta and the alpha. The alpha is macro, the beta is the crypto intrinsic added value of a project in itself. That's a different topic. But looking at macro, the first chart that we need to look at is the fact that the Chinese renminbi and ETH versus Bitcoin are copy-pasting each other. So when the renminbi goes down, ETH goes down too. When the renminbi goes up, ETH goes up too. Which on top of that, as you can see in the chart, the correlation is massive, which means that since the second week of April, the Chinese renminbi has been bottoming out and rallying up, while in the same period, ETH has bottomed out and started rallying up. The only thing that is pushing down the returns on crypto is the fact that gold has been accelerating, has started to continue going up even more, which is not great for ETH, but it's still getting into a period of potential peaking, or a top has been formed. And due to that, we also see the fact that the dollar starts to become weaker, which is a matter of time until the yields start to fall, which is also a matter of time until we start to see the PMI going above 50. At this point, it's beneath 50, which is a potential case of recession, which strengthens the case of the yields to go down, as the Fed needs to start printing really soon. Which brings me to the fact that the chart that TechDev has provided is such an insightful one, which is correlated to the business cycle and the return of the crypto markets. And if the business cycle starts to improve, then the returns of the altcoins will go better. And we can see that every business cycle bear market becomes longer. So this one is 4 years, the previous one was 2.5 years, and the one before was 2 years. And this is the actual reason that we are not really moving as of yet. This is also the reason that we're getting into a phase of the altcoins to go up, and that we need to erase the entire 4-year cycle out of our system, which means that the Bitcoin price is going to go substantially higher, but that's going to happen in the next 2 to 3 years, or 1 to 2 years, instead of peaking at the end of this year. So we might argue that we are into a bear market for the dollar, and we are going to likely stay in that for the foreseeable future, which means that we probably are going to have more cycles taking place, but longer cycles, which means that crypto is probably the best asset for the next 10 to 20 years. And the fact that the altcoins are likely going to go higher than we all expect, it's important to rebalance your portfolio, which we are going to do next. So we rebalance the portfolio, and that's not out of luxury. The case is that some altcoins have been significantly underperforming and some altcoins have been overperforming, which means that you can rotate. Because if your fundamental thesis is the same on every asset, then it's just a matter of time before all those assets are going to provide you that alpha multiplier on your entire portfolio. So if in between one of the assets does well, then you can rotate the profits or liquidity from that one into something that is about to do it, and then you can start compounding it. So it might feel like we are not really doing anything in this particular part, but we are actually continuing to slowly increase the positions and slowly compound the profits over time. So we're doing that every month. And if we look at the portfolio, then the portfolio shows us that we're currently having a downwards return, or at least we have a loss of about 60 to 70%, as most of the altcoins are still at cycle lows. Is that terrifying me? No. I mean, I've been doing this before. It's natural. If you want to have 500 to 1000% upside, you need to be able to endure this downwards moment. But before I rotated the positions, Tau was substantially larger in terms of allocations towards this asset. And secondly, in the smaller buckets, Rocket Pool was substantially bigger too. So Tau was at like $9,000 and Rocket Pool at 4, which means that the differences between the assets is going to be too much. So then I can rotate liquidity from these two towards the other ones. And we have been doing this previously. So we have been selling Tau for multiple times already. We have been rotating that into other assets. And that has been lowering the average cost for most of those assets. That the moment those assets start to do well, it's going to provide me the ability to get into profits way faster. So there are a few instances that I would like to discuss before I get to the rebalancing of the portfolio, which is if we look at the chart for Tau, we can see that it's up 135% since its low. And if we look at Optimism, then if we would have been making a move of 135%, it would have been going towards $1.30, and erasing the entire loss of this year basically, which Tau has been doing as it's currently around those highs of February, which in this case, Optimism is still down above 60 cents, which is about 50 to 70% from the current price, which means that if we are seeing this strength in one asset, then we want to take that money and rotate it into an asset that we think is going to do the same to double the actual profits. And that is, in the downwards markets, the best strategy that you can do if you are entirely allocated towards altcoins. So that's what we basically did. The same principle can be said for instance, Rocket Pool compared to Wormhole. So if we know the thesis about Tau and Optimism, we can see the exact same when it comes to Wormhole, which is currently down 70% from its high in February. So we could also take the money from a good moving smaller asset in our portfolio into a not yet moving asset that is going to yield us an additional return. So you're basically taking, let's say, $500 from the strong asset, you move it into the smaller asset that didn't move. If it does another double, you make a double return. So that's what we try to achieve with this. Now, as you can see, I've got a mutations tab here in our portfolio, which includes all the movements that we did. As you can see, what did I do? I have sold $2,000 of Tau at $395, which was just before we shot this video. That's basically selling 5 Tau, and then I'm still having 17.85 Tau. And what I did is I actually added $1,000 into Celestia, which is significantly underperforming. So I bought another 446 Celestia, and I've added it into Optimism. So I added at 66 cents, which is adding 1,500 Optimism towards the portfolio. And then you can see that the average for Optimism is $1.87, while we started at $2.25. So it's coming nicely down. So Tau is still at $532. We still have 17.85 Tau, which is currently worth $7,000. And we have Celestia 3,136 for $7. And we can see that it's also worth $7,000. And the likely case that we're going to be seeing is the fact that we are having a strong upwards move in size, Celestia, and Optimism, and then rotating it back into Tau that likely gets the momentum after that. So on top of that, we've done the exact same with Rocket Pool. We sold $1,000 at $6.05, as you can see, so we sold 165 Rocket Pool, and we added that into Renzo for $0.011, which means that 44,500 Renzo has been added, and we added it into Aevo at 10 cents, as you can see at 10.3 cents, so a total portion of 29,000 Aevo, and this has all been included here in this tab, as you can see with the amounts, and the averages have been coming down. So currently we are all equal, and we are set to go with the altcoin portfolio, and we are ready for our next upwards move in which we continue to rebalance and rotate this portfolio. The big question is, am I completely retarded for being in altcoins, or is it going to yield me a nice return so I will be considered lucky in 1 to 2 years from now? We don't know. And recently, people started to ask me questions whether I'd be convinced about the outcome of the markets, whether I still believe in the outcome of the markets. Well, I'm never 100% sure, but and that's also not the right approach. Although I do see a lot of fundamental arguments why the markets should be continuing to do well. For instance, the markets haven't been doing bad based on crypto. It's just through macro that we have been falling. And based on crypto alone, we would have been trending way higher. So it's just a matter of time until we start to see that being reflected into the prices. And I think it's just, I'm not really in fear when it comes to the outcome of these markets or my portfolio. And the key reason for that is that I'm just very patient. And I will be waiting here for the markets to become better as we are at the bottom of the business cycle. So in the upcoming updates, I'm going to be diving more into the altcoin portfolio and my thesis behind it. Make sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel, and I'll see you again on Sunday. Ciao. OKX is celebrating their 1-year anniversary in the Netherlands, and you can earn up to €100 in Bitcoin by just joining in. From June the 3rd to June the 17th, OKX is running a special 2-week campaign where both new and existing Dutch users can get rewarded in Bitcoin for completing simple tasks. New users can sign up through my personal link in the description below, buy at least €100 in crypto within 14 days of signing up, and you'll get a €20 bonus in Bitcoin, plus more for any completed task. Are you already on OKX? Don't worry, you can still earn up to €80 in Bitcoin by completing tasks like deposits, trading, and referring friends. Head to the OKX campaign page through the link in the description, register and start earning. But be quick, because the campaign ends on June the 17th or when the prize pool €15,000 runs out. Start stacking sats, link below, let's go.